Ladies and gentlemen, would you please stand and join Vice Mayor Case in our salute to the flag and then remain standing for our prayer.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Remain standing for the prayer, please.
Awesome, Father. I thank you for this meeting, and I thank you for every like-minded individual who is here to fulfill the tasks for your kingdom. I pray that you bless us as we do not walk in the step of the wicked, but we delight in your law. I pray that we meditate on your law day and night so that we can be blessed in our meetings, and let your law be evident in our meetings also so that we can prosper. God of love, we trust in you with all our heart and lean not on our own understanding. We acknowledge you in all our ways and in all our meetings, and so that you will direct our paths. Father, we do not rely on ourselves for effective results, for we are only human and often make mistakes. It is you who knows all things, so have your way in this meeting. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Now open up our 2002 Guthrie Public Works Authority meeting, November 1st. Our second item is public comments, community announcements, and recognitions. We have these that are commented on. They're going to be commenting on a particular topic later on. And I think that's all we have. Item number 3 is a consent agenda item. We only have one item on the consent agenda, which is the approval of the minutes of the October 18th, 2022 Public Works Authority meeting. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
And a second. Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Submit your votes.
I'll vote Strand.
See the votes. Unanimous approval then to approve the consent agenda. Item A, approval of the minutes. That being the last item on our Public Works Authority meeting, it is adjourned. And I open up our City Council meeting of November 1st, 2022. Second item on the agenda is consent agenda, which we have 2 items. Approval of the minutes of October 18th, 2022 City Council meeting, and the approval of paying Young contracting payment number 2 for the sum of $225,779.29 for the CDBG water main replacement project along Division. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
And a second. Have a motion and a second. Any discussion of those items? Submit your votes.
I'll vote Strand.
See the votes. Unanimous approval then of the consent agenda items A and B. Item number 3, discussion and possible action to adopt ordinance number 3375 for a request to rezone approximately 37-acre portion of property from R1, single-family dwelling, to I2, general industrial district, and discussion and possible action for a request of a special use permit to allow for a concrete batch plant and associated use within the general industrial zoning district of approximately 37-acre portion of the property located at northwest quarter section number 9 along the south side of East Seward between Stewart and Sooner Road and the interstate I-35. Dan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Going to be short on this. Just a couple things I was going to add, because with the introduction, you pretty much said why we're here, as well as I think all of you guys have already looked over and kind of know what's going on. I just wanted to add to, for procedurally, that there's a rezone and then there's a special use permit. If you were to deny the rezone, there's no need to even hear the special use permit, because the special use permit is contingent upon the rezone. But the rezone could be approved and the special use permit not approved in that. So they're just 2 separate items. They were run concurrently because we're obviously talking about the same property in that. The Planning Commission did recommend denial of the rezone 3-0, which then negated any need to hear the special use permit. There were a number of public comment letters that I provided in the packet, and then there's obviously public here tonight to speak. So with that, I'll leave it to the council if they have any questions of me. If not, we'll move to the next step.
Any questions of Dan, start off with?
What's the weight of the bridge down there on Seward?
The weight?
Yeah. What, Kenny?
Oh, the weight, I'm sorry. I did, yeah.
20 tons, okay.
I got a question too. Are we talking about the property, right there at I-35 and Seward, on the south side of the road?
Talking one right behind the rock.
Yeah.
That
It would
was-
be- it would be east
that
of the-
you- ODOT was set up there.
Right, right. It would be west of that and then east of the Rockaway Bar.
Less about 10 acres. I think.
Yeah.
It's not that.
East of Rock.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's not on the corner. There's one on the corner that is zoned industrial, but this is not the one.
They're talking about it here.
Yeah.
Of the 37
You got it.
acres,
Not the
mine's
same place.
actually in city limits.
The 37 acres. It's a total of roughly 105 acres, of which 37 is in the city.
The rest is county.
Yeah, the rest is county to the south.
All right, any other questions initially?
Not available anytime.
Okay. All right, to start off the conversation, I'd like to ask Councilman Channel, who has done quite a bit of research on this, as well as other members of the council, to make, you have a presentation that you'd like to make?
Yeah,
Don?
a small one, some
Okay.
facts I'd like to get out to everybody. Somebody will catch the lights here, so make it easier to see. Right where that pointer is, that's where the applicant is wanting to put this plant. Right up in pretty much northeast part of the property. Everything inside this blue line, this is a survey of that property. And they bought this whole piece that runs all the way around. Everything in the dark blue belongs to the applicant. And what they're wanting to do is put the plant here and then have access from Seward there so they can go right out and get on the highway and do what they want to do. And what a lot of people don't know is they bought this to put a plant in. And so there's going to be a plant there. Or maybe not in that spot, but on that property, there's going to be a plant. And so what you get into, this that's marked out, that's the floodplain that runs diagonal through it. So we can turn that down and we can tell them, go home, we don't want your plant, to this little section. This part down here that they all still own, that's still part of the property, down towards the south and west, that's not under our control. And we can't say anything about it. So if we tell them no up here, they're gonna turn and come down here. And why are they gonna come here? They're gonna go there because it's in Logan County. And Logan County has zero zoning, zero code enforcement, nothing. You can live in a plywood shack, have 4 or 5 broke down cars, and burn your trash in the front yard in Logan County, and nobody's gonna say anything to you. So, you know, in my frame of mind, the applicant is kind of doing us a favor by doing the neighbors a favor by putting it up here. Because if it ends up down here on the south somewhere, this is Sooner Road. They're gonna need access, and they're gonna access it more than likely off of Sooner Road. I haven't talked to them, but they're not gonna run all those trucks through this low-level floodplain all the time. So the only thing that makes sense, if they have to move south where they can do it, is to come out here on the Sooner Road. And of course, they're gonna want the shortest route. And so the shortest route to get I-35 is to run right down here at the corner and make a right and go out and get on 35. And so all of these people that are living over in here, if we don't put it up here in the corner, they're gonna be your real close neighbors down here. And you're gonna have trucks running up and down the Sooner side of things. So, to me, they're exposing themselves very little to the neighborhood by doing it, having a drive over here and going over and getting on the highway. Another thing I'd like to point out, this whole property, whether it's down here or whether it's up there, there's, whether we say yes, whether we say no, all of the environmental issues, the water, the air, all of that stuff that is handled by DEQ. And none of us sitting up here can tell you we're educated enough and up to date with all of the chemicals and the air quality and all of that type of thing. And so really for us, for the council, it becomes more of a land use issue, because we can say yes tonight and DEQ can tell them no. They can tell them no to this spot, or they can tell them no to down here. But that's something we don't have any control over. But if we put them up here with the intent of, if they get it approved and if DEQ says it's okay, at least it's away from the bulk of everybody's properties. And DEQ, they're gonna have the final say as far as if people are worried about water pollution, the air pollution, all of that kind of stuff, all the dust, all of that kind of stuff. DEQ are the ones that have the say-so, and they would override us anyway. So for us to sit here and go, well, there's too much dust, I think, gonna come out of it, or something like that, it's really what DEQ says, because we can say it on this little corner up here, but when we come down here, we can't make any decisions about if there's gonna be too much there. So the best play for us is to leave the emissions part of it to DEQ. They have paid trained professionals to decide all of that kind of stuff. And they're probably, honestly, they're probably stricter than I would be, because when we had an ice storm here in the city and we had to pick up everybody's branches, we went around and picked them up when they piled them up. DEQ wouldn't even let us burn the branches. They wouldn't let us dispose of them. So they're more tight-fisted than I would be about these kind of emissions items and the stuff like that. And another thing I'd like to point out, we've had Dolisi plant here in the middle of town for umpteen years, and everybody worries about all the dust and emissions. And myself, which I've only been here close to 60 years, but I can't remember ever driving by Ace Hardware and seeing their building dusted down with emissions from the plant that's right across the street. And before they had that one, when I was growing up on the west side, we had a plant at Fifth and Noble, right where you come off the end of the viaduct, just to the north. It was Barnhart concrete. That concrete is in the house that I grew up in. And it was an old plant. That was before all the tide emissions and all of that kind of stuff. And so myself, I've been exposed to that stuff for almost 60 years. I'm not saying it don't happen. I'm not saying there's something that is not in there that you guys don't want. But I'm saying we were just dumb and we lived with it. Even back when the restrictions weren't as crazy as they are now. They've done nothing but get tighter in the last 50 years than they were when I was growing up there. So that's a couple of things to think about. Is, you know, I know a lot of people have the emissions and the environment on their mind, and I am just as concerned as you are about this floodplain area. Because I don't want that getting in our lake. You know, I have a granddaughter. Hopefully she's gonna have kids someday, and they'll have kids someday. I don't want a dead lake either. But I'm not smart enough to make that call, and it won't matter anyway, because DEQ, I can tell them no up here, and they can move over here a whole lot closer to you guys and start it anyway. And if DEQ says it's all right, they're still gonna be there, and they're still gonna be just right off of that floodplain. We'll have time for you later. I promise. I'll answer any questions if you want. So anyway, to me, it kind of comes down to do the people want it over here, or do they want it over here? Over here, there's no control whatsoever other than DEQ. If it's up in this corner, we do have code enforcement, and we have a planning office and that type of thing. So if it's in our territory up here, we can address that if, say, somebody sees something going on that didn't right or that type of thing, you do have somebody here that you can contact that has jurisdiction that can go down there, and if it's something out of their realm of authority, if the city calls DEQ in on something, you're gonna have a lot more success as far as solving the problem than if you yourself as an individual tries to find somebody with DEQ to come and do something about it, because it's pretty frustrating, and they're a lot more apt to listen to us. At one point I haven't posted, somebody asked me this, and I haven't told you guys about it yet. I can't tell you one good thing that comes out of having that plant there. I can't see any reason for it. I can't see any benefit to it. I'm getting nothing out of it. And you guys, well, the city is getting nothing out of it. The citizens is getting nothing out of it. There is no positive about it. And I'll be the first one to admit it. I don't like it. I don't want it. But everybody has the right to use their property. Just like I'm sure a lot of you that if you live out in the county, you might have wanted to live in the county because you didn't want the government in your business. But then again, sometimes it's good to have the government that you can run to if you need some help. But no, I want to say that straight up. I can't name one good thing, but I still think this is America, and I think they still have the right to do what they want to do so long as it fits in with the rules. So while I keep talking here, you guys can decide whether you would like it up here where we have some controls and you have somebody locally that can help you. If they move over here, they can put that plant anywhere they want so long as DEQ okays it, and then they can start a dump and a salvage yard right next to it. And there is no asking. It's just, we're gonna do it. Or if they want to start junking out concrete trucks as they wear them out, they don't have to ask anybody. There's nobody in Logan County. And so that brings up my next slide here. In our packet, we've got a lot of this information, but somebody had sent in a letter and they had attached an aerial view of the plant that they thought was the plant that this company is running. And I corrected it. This is an actual view of the plant. This part here is the plant. There's the trucks rode up and there's trucks rode up. Behind it you have sand and gravel, the concrete mix, and over here is their water, which that's all DEQ is on that. It has to be lined and they inspect this several times a year. I can't quote the frequency of inspections, but DEQ watches that. And another thing to this, when you go to this plant, and I know at least 2 of your councilmen have been there. I've been down there. And I showed up unannounced. I didn't tell them I was coming. And when I went down there, I didn't talk to any of them. I just went down to look and go, what are we getting into? Well, this is the actual plant that they're wanting to put up in the corner, and what we're talking about tonight. The other picture that somebody had, if you look at that area down there, there's a whole bunch of, there's blacktop reclaiming, there's all kinds of plants and things down there, and it looks kind of like an industrial mining site all along Waterloo Road. But this one is the one that we would be seeing, because that plant has to leave there. It's going to a new home, and the part I showed you before is where they want to take it to. So it's not that big industrial area that if you looked in on Google Maps. And I sat there with the other councilman and I said, they're making concrete right now. And he said, how do you know they're making concrete? And I said, up on top of the building, there's a conveyor that was running gravel into the mix house. And I said, that don't sit there and run gravel all day. When they make a batch, they turn it on and it puts the specified amount for the mix in it. And it was running, and then I'd say, I don't know, 30, 45 seconds, it quit running. And then trucks were lining up there to get filled up. And we both looked while they were mixing and doing their thing in action. There was nothing coming out of there. There was no dust, there was no anything that we could find. And so we drove around the neighborhood down there. There's another house that's about a half a mile from it, and it's got a bright red metal roof on it. So that would have shown up if it was emitting anything for very far. That bright red roof wouldn't have been shiny like it was. It would have had, and we drove all through the neighborhood, all around houses, being very critical and looking for faults that this plant, you know, something would happen. And we couldn't find anything with it. And I also drove into Dolisi's plant, which is right across the highway from where we're talking about. And there's no emissions over there either. But like I said, I'm not for it. I'm not trying to talk you into it. I'm not trying to talk you out of it. I'm explaining to you what we have to do up here, what we have to deal with, the decision that we have to make. Because we have to give them some sort of a decision, and this is what we have to work with. And let me get the next one up here. I thought I'd show you this one. Some of you might recognize it. It's pretty famous. And here's another one. Here's another one. Here's another one. All of that goes on in Logan County. That was one location. And I'm not up here tonight to dog the county or to belittle them. That's their system. If everybody in here tonight that is concerned about this one plant was over at the commissioners' meetings and said, hey, we want some help, we want some kind of rules, we want to help clean this up. We're sick of looking at this burned out house that's been sitting here forever. Let's do something about it. It would help clean up the county. But a bunch of you have probably said, well, I want to be in the county where they don't bother me. Well, when you move to the county where they don't bother you, this occurs. And here's something else that happens. That happens. That's in Logan County. That's the aerial around that plant. That plant that I just showed you a close-up is right up here. But look at all of this. That looks like a terrible mining industrial operation of some sort. It's terrible. But the reason that it happened there is because it's in Logan County. It did not come there because that's a great space for a plant and that's where they wanted to be. It came there the same reason we have a lot of grow houses in Logan County. There is no zoning, there is no organization, and that's what happens in Logan County. So we can tell them tonight, we can tell them, no, go on down the road. And I am telling you, they will jump across the waterway there, and they're still going to use that property, and there's still going to be stuff there. And everybody here and all the citizens are not going to have any help at all. They can't come to the code office or the zoning office or anything like that and go, hey, that thing's been blowing soot out there for the past week. We're going to go, remember that picture he showed you? We can't do nothing about it. It's in Logan County. So it's up to you guys. I mean, I know a lot of you have a lot of concerns about the environmental and the this and the that, but basically what it's going to boil down to in all of this is, do you want us to put the plant up? We're not putting it, but do you want the plant up there, or do you want it down here where it's not controlled? Because if we say no, it's not going away, it's just going to better pastures where they have nothing over them. So that's kind of what it boils down to for the council up here.
Thank you, thanks, Councilman.
And hang on here just a minute. My assistant here told me something that we need to talk about. If we approve it up here, it takes a special use permit. It takes not only rezoning, but it also takes a permit to be there. And so what I've been talking to some of the other councilmen about is if we put it up there and we say it's okay, there's some things that I want to work into their special use permit to make it better for the citizens, better for everybody. I want to talk about this road out here and who's going to be responsible for that. I want to talk about a turn lane maybe there for the trucks. Because I'm just like you guys, they're building some houses over here at Seward and Coltrane. And if I worked in Oklahoma City all day and I come up I-35 and then I turn to go on Seward and I have to sit behind a bunch of rock trucks and all I want to do is get home to my house over there, I'm going to be mad and I'm not going to like it. And so I really want to have a conversation with those people about also a buffer of, if you drive by there now, you can see that it's pretty wooded up in there. And we also want to put some conditions on their use permit as far as trying to leave a buffer for the environment. If there is dust that comes out of the plant, having that buffer of timber running along there, because there's going to be some dust. It's going to be gravelled and there's going to be trucks going in and out. Hopefully there's nothing coming out of the plant, but that will help a lot with the environmental, having a buffer zone. And we have several different things that I've talked to with different councilmen. If we put it up there, I have no problem negotiating some terms and putting some stipulations as to what they can have in there and what we want, as to where if we put it down in the other side, well, we won't put it there, but if we crowd them to that side, you have nobody to talk to and nobody will listen to what you want because there is nobody. A board does not exist for Logan County. So that's where we're at.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Don. We will open it up, and if you have questions of him, include it in your remarks as you come to the podium. I think the other lady over here, I think you're also on the list also, if you do that.
Mr. Mayor, do I have as much time as the gentleman?
You have 5 minutes.
I'm a councilman.
You have 5 minutes. First person on the list, Anthony, state your name, address.
My name is Anthony Ingram, and I live at 211 West Seward Road, 300 feet off the property that we're talking about.
And you have 5 minutes.
I have a couple of questions for you.
Okay.
Sir, do you live on the south side of Guthrie?
No, I do not.
Okay. Do you know why the concrete plant is moving off of Waterloo?
I know they do not own the property there, and I know the owner is getting bigger and they want them to move.
Okay. What guarantee do you have that they are going to use Interstate I-35?
That is their whole goal with a concrete truck. The goal isn't to move there so that they can go west down Seward Road. The goal is interstate
Okay,
access.
do you know why Delisi goes over from the east side of I-35 all the way over 35 down to Sooner and takes Sooner south all the way to Waterloo?
I do not.
Isn't that kind of odd? It's a concrete company that you think is right next to the highway that would want that access to get to Waterloo? Kind of interesting, I think.
Well, and this is just a thought, there's a lot of activity at the corner of Sooner and Waterloo. And so maybe they would rather just shoot straight down Sooner to go right there and dump. But that's just strictly speculation.
Yeah, because it backs all the way up, so they would actually be sitting there a lot longer than they would on the highway
Yeah.
to take the water. Do you think it could be because they're trying to get around OHP and DOT and weight restrictions?
You know, this company that's wanting to come in, I'm not real familiar with, other than I did check back with the DEQ, and they run, off the top of my head, 6 or 8 plants scattered all over, and they haven't had any violations with DEQ as far back as 2016, I believe it is. But I am not familiar with why they operate, But as far as Dolisi, I wouldn't be too concerned about Dolisi. They've been around, they're a big company. I don't think they have any DOT problems because they all have drop axles and they're all licensed to do what they're doing.
Okay, you also mentioned that Dolisi doesn't have any air quality issues, and they
No.
control that.
I said that I drove through Dolisi.
One time.
And I didn't see, I have been there several times myself buying from them, but I went as an inspection look-around trip this past week, just looking at what they have over there. And no, I've never noticed any emissions coming from them.
Really? Okay. Do you happen to notice that house that was right next to Delisi property? That's abandoned now?
No, I did not.
Okay. Wonder why that was abandoned? Maybe because of the air quality?
I don't see a house there. I don't know.
You probably can't see it because of the dust, but.
Well, as
Anyway,
far as I know, the concrete drainage is beside it,
Sure.
the company.
So because my time is limited, and I appreciate that, but I'm just going to talk about a couple of issues. One, and there's plenty of people here that will also speak on other issues that are important to us. But the main issue that I want to talk about, at least I want to bring up, is the water. As we are all aware, the Guthrie Lake supplies the Guthrie citizens their water. Since concrete plants are known for introducing hazardous chemicals into the mix, the potential for catastrophic contamination of Guthrie Lake would be a real and present threat, as the batch plant would be located on the main tributary that funnels water to the lake. If the council were to approve this rezone, the batch plant would be that much closer to the city water supply. Second thing I want to point out, and I gave you some photos, are the road damage. Both Seward and Sooner roads have weight limits. If you look at photo number 1 and number 2. Photo number 1 is a weight limit on Sooner Road, 26,000 pounds. Each one of those trucks, minimum of 73,000 pounds. That's along Sooner Road and along Seward Road. Okay. The second picture is a photo of the weight limits on the bridge. Okay, it's 2 tons, it's 44,000 pounds. Again, a standard concrete truck is 73,000 pounds.
I know that.
Okay. You also mentioned, sir, that that you would hold them responsible for the condition of the roads. City
No,
council can't do that.
I believe what I said was, on their special use permit, we would like to put some conditions on it and talk to them about the responsibility of that road. Now, I answered several of yours. I would like you to answer one of mine.
Sure, go ahead.
Would you rather us say no to that plant and let them move to South County? That's your only 2 options.
Sure.
Which would you rather have?
I would, okay. To answer your question, yes.
Okay.
But to further go into detail on that, that is going to be an issue with the EPA. That's going to be a federal issue with permits and restrictions, okay?
Correct,
Done.
just like up there.
Well, wait, why is
Wait.
everybody saying no?
Why is it
Why is
different?
that not? Okay,
How does that differ, Tony? Tell me how that differs.
How that differs. First of all, they're in a flood zone if they go south. Secondly.
Not all of it.
not all of it.
Okay. Secondly, they are right up against a neighborhood, a brand-new neighborhood, Canyon Creek.
Yeah.
So you got air quality, you got noise quality, and you got contamination of the tributary to the city of Guthrie Lake. Big issues that they're gonna have to overcome with the EPA. Secondly, I'd just like to ask one other question. Is there anybody representing the company here tonight?
I do not know.
Is there an applicant representative here? No.
It's interesting. Okay, so I was going to talk about some of the disadvantages, and I think I'll let
I'll
the.
give you 2 more minutes.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Did we talk? Yeah, we talked about the weight limits on the photos. So there's a couple of major disadvantages, but I just want to cover one last one since I only have a few minutes. There is the school of thought, and you discussed this, sir, that even if the council votes down the rezone and/or a special use permit, the concrete companies can still put in a batch plant in the county-owned land that has no restrictions. We understand that. While this may be the case, there are the hurdles that would need to overcome from both state and federal agencies that have guidelines and departments that hold these companies accountable. But my final point is, if the council members are considering allowing a rezone special use permit so that they can put restrictions to protect the citizens from these issues, then you will need to consider this. The city of Guthrie has no storm water department. The city of Guthrie has no water quality department. The city of Guthrie has no air quality department. If the restrictions were put on the company, who would be responsible for holding them accountable?
My question to you is why would DEQ not be over it up in that corner?
I asked you a question, sir. And I'll
Okay.
answer yours. But who would be responsible for making them do that?
That would
Holding
be,
them accountable.
that would be a condition of their use permit, and if they violate the use permit, then that's what all of our code enforcement is for.
And
But I,
tell me what code enforcement would.
I sat here and told you myself, none of us are qualified to make those environmental calls.
But you can vote.
Do what?
But you can vote on it. You're not qualified to do it, but you can vote on it.
No, we're not voting on DEQ,
You're
sir.
voting on rezoning and allowing
Correct.
a batch plant.
Correct.
Right.
Now, I would like to know from you, why do you think that corner up there is exempt from DEQ?
I'm not saying it is.
So,
What
but
I-
why is that a better, why is this a better spot down below?
I don't think any of them are better spots.
I get it. I don't know that any of us do, but why, they're gonna put it
Yeah,
there.
none of us
They're gonna
do.
put
So
it
you
there.
say. So you
Well-
say they're gonna put it there, and they say they're gonna put it there, and they say they're gonna use I-35. Excuse me, sir, I didn't hear you.
That's your extension has been used up.
Well, in my opinion, it would be impossible or irresponsible and an injustice to the community and the citizens of Guthrie to allow this to pass. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gabe Pruitt? State your name and address. Yeah, then it won't count against your 5 minutes.
Okay.
My name is Gabe Pruitt, and I'm a resident of Seward Road. I'm also the CEO of Anvil Environmental. We are a environmental consulting and remediation company. I deal with this stuff on a daily basis. Y'all may not have the expertise, but I do. So, I've got 15 years of experience. I've got a college degree in it. So, if you have questions, I would love to answer them. The first thing is, it's not just that is the whole floodplain. It's called a watershed. It's called a watershed because every bit of water that sheds off of those hills into that valley go into the lake. That means that every bit of sediment that comes off of that plant will go into the lake. Every bit of contaminants that are part of that sediment will be going to the lake. The reason that that property was even annexed over 50 years ago was to protect the water. You have a duty to protect the citizens of Guthrie. That includes their water.
I got a question.
Yep.
How do we know that?
That you guys are responsible.
No, that it was annexed to protect the water. I don't know that.
They were talking about it. That's the only part that's annexed, and it's because it's a direct waterway. If you look at the map, it's a
Who
direct
is they?
waterway.
I don't know who, I
The
never
city
heard
count
this.
whenever they annex it. I don't have physical proof, but you can look at the map and say, why would they annex that corner?
So
It's
in
a
your
clear
opinion,
reason.
that's why they.
Yeah, I never said that it was a fact.
What were they?
But isn't that watershed isn't DEQ, because you're experienced in that and I'm not, aren't they gonna be the same regulations on the top as they are down in the southwest?
So, this
I mean, the
whole,
nor-
between those two lines, that whole thing is the watershed.
I get
So, DEQ oversees wherever they're gonna be. However, if you guys reject it, that's gonna put them, there are certain standards they have to follow as far as how far from residential, that will put them within the range of being too close residentially, as far as air quality goes. They won't be able to build just anywhere that they want to build. I know that you all think that, and they've said that, but it's not the truth.
Well, I got
It's not an
another
either-or
question for you
situation.
Since you have the degree.
Huh?
I have another question since you have the degree.
Yeah,
You were talking about being too close to housing.
yeah.
How'd they put one down here in the middle of town on South Division?
How did y'all approve it? I don't know.
We don't, no, DEQ approves that.
Well, no,
We
this
don't
is a
approve
new
that.
rule that went into effect, it's 440 yards from residential properties.
A new rule
Texas,
from.
Texas.
Are you talking about
state of
the
Oklahoma.
neighborhood that's being built where there's no houses yet?
Wherever that neighborhood is within.
Just, that's what we're talking about? It has just the road plat there,
Yeah.
and that's what we're talking about?
Yeah,
Well, I know the one that you're talking about, but there's another one right next to that property that you can't
Yeah,
get to
there's-
from your neighborhood.
yeah,
That's the one,
yeah.
yeah.
And so, and right now, Texas is actually changing their rule to go to 880 yards. Because you can go and you can look, you're not gonna see the emissions coming, you're not gonna see the contaminants in the air. People that work in those plants have to wear badges that are particulate badges, because you can't see the particulates. You're breathing them in, but you can't see them.
What, can you tell me who has this 440-yard rule?
Right now, it's in Texas, the full, what is it?
We're in Oklahoma.
We're in Oklahoma, sir.
I know that we're in Oklahoma. Oklahoma follows best practices. So it's whoever oversees the concrete plants. They've got their own,
DEQ.
no, it's a best practices, it's a best management, as far as Oklahoma goes. Texas has a bill, or a rule, law. Oklahoma has a best practice. That's overseen by the
What
companies.
Oklahoma agency can I go to and say, show me this 440-yard rule that you're talking about?
That is there is not an agency that's gonna say that. It's a
So
best
they'll let 'em
it's
build
a best
right up to the
management
neighborhood.
practice. It's a best management practice means that as far as all of the industry goes within the state, that's what they have deemed the best practice. I will say this, if they do decide to build down here, that will be a class action lawsuit, and I can almost guarantee you that it will then be a rule. So if y'all deny it here, we can stop it down with DEQ down here. But all that y'all have to worry about is 37 acres. Like you said, it does nothing for you except
Right.
for potentially contaminate our lake.
Right.
Get them further away from the lake.
Well, I'm just dealt the cards that I'm given to work with here. Excuse me?
I mean, if they couldn't even show up to the meeting. So
25 seconds.
if they're gonna take you serious as far as regulations go, they're not even taking you serious right now by showing up. That's all I got.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Bob McMillan? Is that it? Right, Bob? Okay. Name, address?
Bob McMillan, 1810 West Lakewood Drive. That's the neighborhood where we moved our storm damage out to the street and was told that there wasn't enough money to pick it up. A little bit about me. I grew up in Martins Ferry, Ohio, in the Ohio River Valley. We had the unique distinction of having the highest reject rate of draftees during World War II. Because they had black spots on their lungs. They came to the valley and determined that everybody in the valley has black spots on their lungs. Someone posted a photo of my hometown the other day and it nearly made me cry. I'm so thankful to God that I got out of there when I did. And I pray to God I never have to move back there because of what the industries have done to that valley. That being said, the gentleman that spoke earlier, I'm not going to bore you with the facts and figures and all of that. I did a little bit of research, but they know more than me. And I do have a degree in engineering from Wichita State, and I work for a company that, among other things, manufactured parts for coal-fired power plants prior to their selective catalyst reduction units to clean up the NOx emissions. So I know a little bit about what those guys are talking about, not as much as they do. It's gonna be dirty. And I did want to talk a little bit about what we heard at the Planning Commission meeting. I spoke there. I pointed out that the road to hell isn't paved with concrete, it's paved with good intentions. And I think that's what we've got here. The company was here, they made a presentation, they talked about how they had a low incidence of health concerns with their employees. As was pointed out, they wear PPE at the plant. And my question is, what PPE are the people on the nature trails at Community Church gonna have to wear when they're walking on those nature trails that the Community Church has opened up to the community? You don't have to be.
Is there anybody here with Community Church? Maybe they aren't concerned about it, like the concrete people.
We attend both churches.
Go ahead.
There's a neighborhood there, nice houses, people retired there, they've got their grandkids playing in the backyard. There's also a building going to the south of that that's going on. There is the Rockaway, a historic site where they have outdoor concerts. What PPP are they gonna be required to wear there? The Lakewood, or Lakeview grocery store has a niche market of selling live bait for the lake. If the fish are killed, what's gonna happen to their business? There's a school at the other church on that corner where young children are being taught. There's a place where you can get your deer processed. There's a quilting place. That area has so much potential for the city of Guthrie. When you first come into the city of Guthrie from the south, to have mom and pop shops, to tell people visiting our community that we are the heart of America, a mom and pop kind of place, which I thought Guthrie wanted to present, not some big industrial complex. We heard that they're going to be good neighbors. And then we heard it doesn't make any difference what the Planning Commission decides. It doesn't make any difference what you decide here tonight. They're going to put it there anyway. To me, that's not a definition of a good neighbor. I'm sorry, it's just not. And the bottom line is, behind that screen, it says integrity, service, quality of life. And tonight, I'm asking you to act with integrity and make it as difficult as possible for these people to affect the quality of life in Guthrie. The bottom line is, you said, if you have control of the plant up at the corner, that's no guarantee that they're not gonna put a junkyard for their used trucks down at the south end. That's no guarantee that they're not gonna open up a scrapyard, that they're gonna pile up sand and other stuff down there. They can do whatever they want. You're right. They can do whatever they want in that south part of their property. But I'm asking you, I'm begging you to act with integrity and tell them that you're gonna make it as difficult as possible. If it wasn't gonna be more difficult for them to be on the south end, they wouldn't be asking you to be on the north end. So make it as difficult as possible.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you for hearing me.
Desi Goodwin,
Hi.
state your, okay?
I'm Desi Goodwin. I live at 120 North Drexel, so I don't live near this proposed plant, but I represent a parcel owner that is directly adjacent to the plant. Quick question before I start in on my little spiel. Is it possible, if they were to go in this lower section, if we said no up here, I know that it's been annexed out of city limits. Can we restrict the curb cuts that they use? Can we restrict their access in and out on Sooner Road so that they only enter and exit from Seward?
That's not our territory, so we
Why
can't
not?
do it. We're not, that's beyond our boundary of authority.
So are we saying that Sooner doesn't lie within, any of it doesn't lie within city limits?
Right,
Is that
correct.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, that was my question.
No, the bridge does on the other side.
I'm sorry?
The bridge does on the other side, the 20-ton bridge.
Going north.
Heading
Going north
South.
is city. Going south of that intersection
Well, I
is
know
county.
that my lady, my parcel owner, is within city limits, but I didn't look to see where the line went on the west side. So I didn't know if it was possible to restrict their exit and
No,
entrance,
we
which
can't.
would be good for us. I'm Desi Goodwin. I'm a real estate broker. I'm here to represent my client, Nikki Smith. I'm also here for myself as a generally concerned citizen. For those of you who have seen my map 3 times now, I apologize. I love the representations, and I loved your extra stuff here. My client is the green. She is the small green parcel. You can see that she is completely enveloped by the batch plant. It's my professional opinion that the most likely outcome for Mrs. Smith is going to be a drastic reduction in property value. Value is subjective, so let me explain that it limits her future possible users and her future possible uses, and that is absolutely a reduction in value. I think that the corporation in question even believes that they will damage the value of the surrounding land just by being there, and that was made evident by their offers to me. They offered me $1.250 million, which is just below the appraised value for Mrs. Smith's land, and then they went and got the land to the west and came back and offered $550,000. That's a reduction in perceived value of almost $700,000 by the Van Eatons just by being there. And I don't think that Mrs. Smith is the only one that's going to experience this kind of unfair and undue burden on their property value. I think that every business owner and homeowner here is going to have a reduction in value of their property. There's just no question. I have been in business, I've been licensed almost 10 years, and I've been in real estate longer. And I have never passed any kind of an industrial application with a potential homeowner or a potential business owner, and it hasn't been followed by, what is that? You know, what is that? Is that safe for us? What does that mean for property values? So it's the elephant in the room that needs to be discussed. There are 53 homes in that adjacent south parcel. There's 20-plus homes in the parcels to the west. There's homes to the north. There's businesses to the north and to the west that all, that all highly oppose the opening of this plant. There's no question that there will also be a loss of buyers for the immediate area if the plant is allowed to go up, as well as an immediate reduction in property value. I am aware that DeLisi operates on the other side of I-35. According to my research, they've been there since 2007. Surely the council, more than anybody, knows that the needs of Guthrie today are not the same needs as Guthrie in 2007. I ask you to please not drop an industrial application in the middle of an already populated both commercial and residential area. It doesn't make any sense, not in today's world. The Oklahoma population continues to explode. We had our green rush in 2018, we all know that. And then after COVID, you had the exodus of people leaving the cities for more open spaces. And my point here is that Guthrie is growing very fast. It's growing hand over foot. And this council has the unique opportunity to be proactive in terms of city planning rather than reactive. Guthrie is kind of becoming a cultural mecca. We have music, antiques, film now. We have art, we have history, and we can further support these growing economies by laying a heavy developmental hand on city planning. We need to plan with infrastructure preservation in mind, talking about that Seward Road exchange, talking about Sooner Road, and about the entrances and exits to Seward. We need to talk about beautification and the potential economic profit that can be made from this corner. This is the last developable commercial corner from Edmond to Stillwater. I repeated that for zoning, so I'm going to repeat it for you. This is the last developable commercial corner from Edmond to Stillwater. It's also on a full diamond exchange, which means you can exit from either direction, go in any of the 4 cardinal directions, and then get back on the interstate going either way if that's what you so please to do. Any of the big players that will bring in tax dollars, so gas stations, quick service restaurants, regional, national quick service restaurants, anything like that, a minimum requirement is a full diamond exchange, which there's not another one, again, between here and Stillwater. That's big commercial viability. We can put something here that creates tax dollars. We can put something here that is good for the community. We can put something here that doesn't infringe on the property rights of so many local people and businesses. A few weeks ago, Mr. Van Eaton stood here at this podium and he told us that the sales tax is collected at the point of sale and not the point of origin. That means that every sale that he makes, we will not see a dime of the tax dollars unless they are coming into the city of Guthrie. And that to me is a huge deal. Again, with the commercial viability of this corner, we could make hundreds of thousands of dollars in tax revenue by putting something here that makes more sense than this batch plant. That's, my time's up.
I have a couple questions.
Okay?
You finish your comments if you like.
Yes.
You're the agent for that Smith's property.
Correct.
What is it zoned?
It is zoned industrial.
Just I-1 or I-2 or
I believe it's zoned I-1.
I
I-1?
think it's I-1.
I-1. There can be a commercial application here, like there can be a strip mall, there can be restaurant, there can be a corner store, something that serves the community. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Rather than a batch plant. It just
I
doesn't make
wonder,
any sense in city
You know,
planning.
the other thing I wonder about, do you think your client ever felt bad when she ran a truck junkyard in there for umpteen years and it was full of junk and iron and tore up trucks and tires and stuff for
I don't
ever?
know. I can't speak to that, but I can speak to the potential profit of this corner.
Yeah.
And this is not it.
Yeah.
This is no potential profit for Guthrie. That alone, no sales tax should be an open and shut case. I don't know if the city has corporate tax. We all know property taxes are low, but there are no sales taxes coming in from this plant to Guthrie. They say that they want to build in that lower portion. I say, please let them try. And please do not approve this upper portion for them to come in and build.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Could I ask a question?
Yes.
Yes.
How long between that $1 million offer and the other? How much time went by there?
4 or 5 months. The message was delivered, the $550,000 offer was delivered with the message, hey, we are going to open up shop here in 4 months.
Well, yeah, I
You might as
understand.
well take our offer
So-
because nobody will want to open up next to you. They're
Well,
not wrong. It
obviously-
limits her uses.
But obviously, that what was the first offer?
$1.250 million, and
Was
it's
not-
just below the appraised value of $1.260 million.
So that offer wasn't accepted?
The offer was accepted. They did not like the restrictions that ODOT has on this parcel. I think that's also
Okay.
important
All right,
to
that's what
talk.
I was wondering why. Obviously, they wanted to put it there.
They did. They wanted to put it there.
So I didn't know if it was a money issue or they already owned the land around it by that time, or you know
No.
that? Okay,
No.
just curious.
Okay. Thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you.
The next speaker we have is it Kristen Aids? I'm sorry.
My name is Kristen Apples-Craver.
Why don't you wait till you get up there? There you go.
8850 Overlook Drive in one of the new neighborhoods that have been built right next to the parcel. First, I have to say I'm slightly appalled, and I can't think of anything more un-American than telling a group of people who protest something to roll over and accept it, because it just might happen anyway, instead of telling us to protest it if we disagree with it. Moving on. So, as you guys were talking about that you were gonna have some concerns, put some conditions and restrictions on there, these people have already shown that they will not listen to anything. That representative at the city planning committee stood up here, turned around and said to us, and I quote, "It's going in there anyways, whether you like it or not." He then proceeded to gaslight us and say, well, you already have concrete in your homes. He went on further to say, well, there's gonna be a barrier of trees. Now, in the Navy, we had this thing called the magic yellow rope. When we were working on aircraft, we would have fuel cells that were open, and we all know fumes go up in the air, goes all around the place. But there was this magical yellow rope that if you stepped over it, you would die of fuel inhalation. If you stepped back over it, you were safe. It didn't really work, but you know, hey, we had to do what we had to do for OSHA. It's kind of the same thing. No matter what they say, that magical little barrier of trees is not going to do anything at all whatsoever. And as was already talked about, the particulates and destroying the water and all of that. And And again, I'm appalled. That's really the only word I have right now. I'm appalled that we're being told to just accept this. I don't care if it goes over to county, because we're saying no here, we're gonna say no over there. Oh, and also, I had called DEQ because I had major concerns about this, and I wanted to know if there were any reason whatsoever that a permit may get denied. And I was told several times by several different agents, no. As long as they pay their money and they fill out the application, there is absolutely no reason that their permit will be denied. They do not go visit the sites. They do not send anybody out to go and see this and see it's a watershed or see it's a floodplain or anything like that. And so I asked her point blank and I said, well, okay, wait a minute. So this just kind of sounds like a money-taking thing. And she goes, well, they paid and then they get their permit. I said, okay, so yeah, it's a money-taking thing. I said, when do you come to see that there's a problem and do something? And she said, after there has been a significant period of time of a problem. So that means there has to be months, possibly years worth of problems building up, water, air, and land. And who knows what's gonna be happening to the people, the animals. We have bald eagles that nest around here. They fly over our neighborhood every single day hunting. And I homeschool my kids, so there's another school right there with students nearby, and we see them every single day. How do I know they're bald eagles? I used to live up in Washington. They have a massive, massive habitat up there, and some actually nested behind my house. There are so many things wrong with this. So many things wrong with this. The roads have been covered. I don't need to go over any of that anymore, but I cannot believe that this town, this group of leaders here that is charged with taking care of the people of this town, and whether you like it or not, you are a leader and you are supposed to be taking care of the people of this town, would be more willing to just go, well, maybe they'll follow the regulations. And if they don't, maybe we'll give them a fine and maybe they'll pay for it.
Let me interject something. I can say for myself personally, and for Don, because I was the one with him when we went inspecting these places. I've spent an inordinate amount of time trying to figure out how to protect you, okay? And wait, you just said if DEQ, if they get, what you just told me is if they go to DEQ and ask for a permit, they're gonna give them one.
Yes.
Okay, so then it's gonna be down there. Okay, and that's what my concern has always been.
I'm not sure how many times we have to say
Look,
this.
I
You don't care
hope-
because
let
it's in
me-
Logan County and you won't get any of this perceived revenue that you think you're going to
No,
get.
listen,
No,
listen,
don't really control
listen to what
it.
listen to what
That's
I'm
what I'm
saying.
saying.
Hey, I've been a no vote from day one on this thing, okay? Period. I have been. Okay?
Then why would you approve it
I,
at all?
what we're trying to put out here is a potential solution from them going down to that corner
That is not a
and butting up to
solution.
everything.
That is not a solution.
So if we
Building
did,
right next to a neighborhood and churches is not a solution.
that is gonna be a worse solution down in the
They will
bottom.
not make it that far.
Okay, well,
Now-
you just told me you talked to DEQ and they said they'll give them a permit.
They're gonna give them a permit if they build in your area too.
Right.
Okay, you
And there
just
would be,
answered my
no,
question.
right, they
You
would.
literally just said the same thing.
Bring it down a notch.
Okay.
Bring it down a
My
notch.
question is, so we turn this down, how are you gonna keep them out of the south end?
Yeah.
I don't think you really care.
I
Because
think
you
that's
sat there and
wrong.
told us to
You
accept
don't
it.
think we care?
No, I do not think you personally care. Because you
Why?
did. You told us we were dumb and we lived with it. That was your quote.
No, well,
No.
You told us we should just accept
No,
it.
wait a minute.
You
No.
said you were not for it, but you
You're-
said that we
wait a
should
minute.
accept it because it was a better idea. Because for you
Okay,
to think that they're
I'm gonna
going
say-
to somehow follow these regulations,
Okay.
and they won't.
Let me explain this to you.
We're not gonna take up time with you two arguing.
well,
okay?
wait, I wanna hear
No, there
just
is
a
no
response.
There is no response. Okay?
Do we have another one that's gonna
Your
speak?
time, your
Yeah.
time is up. You've made your point.
I was done.
Okay.
Gentleman interjected.
I understand.
Thank you. No,
Just go on.
Linda, is it Linda Seeley? Okay, Linda. You're the last one I have.
I don't know if that's good or bad.
Identify your name and address, please.
I'm Linda Seeley. I live at 315 Lisa Lane, which is in the Lake Ridge Estates. On the map that the real estate agent gave you, it's at the top. I'm gonna show you, it's these little boxes at the very top up here that I've circled. That's the back end of our property. In fact, one of those little boxes is the back end of our property. So we are close to what's going on. I am not just a new resident of Guthrie. I graduated from high school here. I've been here since 1975. Well, a brief stint living abroad and going to college. I'm now a professor at the University of Central Oklahoma, and I'm a supporter of many of the different volunteer and service organizations in this community. My mother was a longtime retail establishment, the Pincush and the fabric store in town. I grew up going to Mark's Drugs and doing all the things that you did in Guthrie as a young girl. And I love this town, and that's why I came back here after seeing the world, is because I love this city. I wanted my children to be raised here, and they were raised here. I wanted to come to you. We've got great people that have great research and experience and knowledge talking to you about air quality and water quality. But, and I am a redhead, as the previous speaker was, so I have a little bit of fire in me too. Ask my husband. When you, Mr. Channel, referred to you guys, you're referring to the new homes down south. And I want to make sure that you understand.
Tell me where in my talking, I say you guys a lot.
Well,
So
let's see.
I want you to clarify it for me.
Just after we're just dumb and just live with it.
No.
You
No,
said
he
you
said-
got.
let me
Wait, then you
back
said
up.
wait, but then you said you guys.
No,
And
let
I'm
me
saying
address that.
it's not just the people down south; it's the people up north too.
Apparently, there's somebody in here, at least two we know, that mistook what I said. I was talking about.
Sir, it's my time. I don't want to give it up to you just so that you
Well,
can.
You can
reinforce-
have more time.
No, only he's the one that can designate
I'll be in charge of
that.
But yes.
I wrote it down to make sure. And you know what I do for my living? I write things down that people say so I can analyze them. That's what I
But you
do.
took it out of context.
No, I didn't,
said-
sir.
Pam, would you clarify your point, please, Don?
Okay.
Yes, I would. The statement that I made probably was, I guess we were just dumb and lived with it, and that was referring to the one that we had at Fifth and Noble my whole life growing up. It had nothing to do with you guys.
It was referring to you.
It had to do with me living with it and dealing with it.
Does that?
Thank you.
I put you on pause, so that didn't take
Okay.
any of your time.
Thank you.
But now you are.
Thank you for the clarification. But you refer to the homeowners, and you continue to refer to the south, and asking if anybody from the church is here. My property is up there with the church, one of the churches. The walking trails they just built and put in and have the signs up for are right by my house. I walk there. So it does affect more than just the new homeowners at the south. It affects all of us. But really, what I wanted to make sure I talked about here was, let me turn my over. When you talk about the Delisi plant and that people are near it, just because other people have survived living near a Delisi plant and have no damage that they know of, does not mean we need to compound it and do it again. If the research tells us that these silicate particles are carcinogenic, and they are, then we know that there is a chance. And while the employees at that plant might have to wear the little badges to get the particulates so that they can monitor them, just like I do at the hospital with my radiation badge, I take that off and leave it at work, just like the guys in the plant do. So it might not look like they're getting exposure. When I live in that area where the wind blows from the south to the north, I can't put the badge off. I can't go home and get out of the particulates. I'm there 24/7, as are all the homeowners that live around there. We're going to get more exposure than the people that work there. Now, again, I don't think you should compound. I understand you're saying that it's been here in town. Regulations have changed. These are particulates you can't see, but just because some people are surviving it doesn't mean we need to expose other Guthrie citizens to the same harmful potential. Right? That's just not, that doesn't make good common sense. It's like saying just because you didn't get cancer, we're going to make sure everybody else gets exposed to it. That's not how it works. We are citizens of Guthrie, and as the other gentleman, I can't remember your name. Yeah, McMillan mentioned, we want this town to be good. We want it to be, when you exit that interstate, it is a place that people want to come and live. We are experiencing an increased housing in this county. We want to keep the houses coming, or in the city. We want to keep the housing coming. We want to keep this tax base growing. We want to keep all what's good about Guthrie. And if we put that batch plant there, we're risking having this entrance to the Guthrie area that looks like a wasteland. Come out there and exit. We bought our house before that DeLisi plant went in across the way. Otherwise, we probably wouldn't have bought there because we looked around. We knew we were close to the limit, but we knew we had a limit. We knew we had a barrier, and now you're going to get rid of the barrier that we thought we had when we bought there. You're going to make it not be what we thought we bought, just like all the other people around there. So I, again, as the former people have asked, am asking you to vote no on this. Yes, they can move it to the other part. There are other ways that we can battle that front if that's what we choose to do. But for us, for the citizens, and for the city of Guthrie, for that property, we are asking you, please do not rezone it. Leave it as is, please.
Thank you for those comments and handouts. Okay.
Is that it on the speakers?
That's all the speakers that signed up, yes.
Well-
So, comments from council.
Yeah, I want to, I want to make a comment. Again, I know it might not have looked like it. I've talked to you quite a few times, or several times, Tony. I've been a no on this from the beginning. I've been trying to find a way that it doesn't happen down in that corner. And if you guys feel that that's what you can do and stop that, I can still give you the no, and I will give you the no. Okay? And so I'm going to make a motion to deny the zoning.
Second.
Third,
Motion
and I would
second.
like,
And a
since,
second.
you know, it really, there was a lady that
I'm
was,
voting yes, right?
I can't call the word that she kept using, appalled. I'm appalled that some of these citizens would sit out here and say, I personally did not care. I spent umpteen hours researching this stuff. I am looking for a answer that helps protect them and still serve the needs of
Yeah.
people
So-
doing that. I would reason to say I put in more hours than anybody sitting up here on this deal,
Probably so.
trying to work something out with it. And no, I have no ties to those people, and there is no value to it here. And I really wish some of you could have seen the time and effort that was put into this, trying to do something with it. But if you think you got it, you got your degrees, and you're gonna keep them out of the south end, right here, I'm voting no.
Well, no,
No, you're voting yes.
we're
I'm
voting,
voting yes.
we're voting
to
yes to
disapprove.
We're voting yes to deny the zoning.
And I will just watch you guys in action.
Well, oh,
Can I say something too?
Yes.
Don and I, for one, I know have put in a lot of talk over this, an enormous amount of talk. I, for 4 or 5 months in the fall of 2020, hauled into these plants, every one of them except Shawnee, every day. Hauled gravel and sand in them. Van Eaton Norman was their pristine one. They did a good job of keeping it picked up. It's a batch plant, it's not gonna look pretty from there, and it's not gonna look pretty, but they did a good job of taking care of it. I'm just saying. I also have 15 years of environmental experience. Groundwater, surface water, vapor sampling, subsurface, you name it, I've done it, over a 9-state area. I've dealt with this every state, audited every year by state agencies, including the NRC. So my confidence in the DEQ of Oklahoma, I have confidence because they have teeth and I've seen them use it. I know the regulations that they go. Maybe they'll lax and won't get people out there because like everybody else, they're shorthanded, I don't know. But the thought was, if we put it there, we would have some say-so. It was for your benefit that we thought we'd have some control that you wouldn't get otherwise. That's what it was all about. From the word go, it was what was best for you people.
How could we best serve you?
You guys.
Yes, if we've got some control on it, we can serve you a little
Yes.
bit. And
So-
we're not gonna have that now.
Willful derelict of duty was a little strong. That's not the case. It was for you. There's no money in this for Guthrie. There's no benefit. We already agreed, there's no
No,
reason.
there's not one.
So I'm with you. Let's say no to it and let them.
well, you're gonna vote yes. You're gonna go yes
Vote
to
yes.
deny it.
Yes.
Just to, yeah.
And we'll just watch and see.
Let it fall where it
No means
falls.
yes.
Yeah,
Yes, yes, yes.
I think,
No to the,
yeah,
Yes
and I
means
think
no.
everybody
Yes means
here
no.
watched the planning, watched the video of the
Yes.
planning, so some of us a number of times.
Yes.
There's been a lot of research done. We're not combatants here. We're trying to figure out what can possibly be best for the citizens. And the opportunity to place some kind of restrictions, if you will, through the next phase, if in fact this was approved, could provide some things, like doing some things for the roads and the bridges to make sure that in fact those weight limits either the bridges were improved by the company, the roads were improved, or a turn lane by the company, and then force them to comply. That at least there would be some things that would be gained for the citizens. The perception that I personally have is that you all think that if we disapprove it, they're going to go away, and that's to be determined by the company. Our concern was that they just move south and then not only tear up more roads because they got to go further to I-35 or wherever they're going, or they got to hit that corner where the bar is and go past the schools that we're trying to protect. A number of things that all went into the decision. Don's first statement was, there is no benefit for this thing for the community of Guthrie. There's no sales tax generated. There's no money that's generated at all. We don't get any property tax. We do not get any from Washington, but we don't get any property tax. The city does not. So there's no benefit. And so there's been an awful lot of homework done up here. We're all trying to do the same thing, which is what's best for Guthrie. And Don did a lot of homework to try to put that in perspective. Leroy?
I would just like to have everybody reflect. You got a group of councilmen that looked at options, and they presented those options. You all presented your input. They listened to you. So the system did work. And hopefully you leave not frustrated, but pleased that the system did work. And even though they brought you options, they still listened to the community.
Yep.
Okay. We do have a motion to disapprove.
Motion to disapprove the
We have
zoning.
a motion to disapprove the application, the
Rezone.
request for rezoning, and that's been seconded. Is there any other discussion? Submit your votes.
And everyone, push your buttons again, because I cleared them.
Okay, you cleared them? So this is a motion to disapprove, just to clarify again.
Right.
A yes is a disapproval, a
Correct.
no is approval.
Right.
Got it.
All votes are in.
See the votes.
There you go.
Unanimous. Unanimous to disapprove the request to rezone. Item number 4, discussion and possible action to adopt ordinance number 3376, another request to rezone a property at the corner of Rutgers Avenue and Birch Street from R1 to R2.
PUD, yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you indicated, this is a rezone. It's at the corner of Birch and Rutgers. It's over just on the east side of the Housing Authority in that. One of the main reasons it's going through the PUD is it was one way to basically fit in to be in compliance with the comprehensive plan. It's designated high-density residential there, but our code doesn't quite get there, so this was a perfect solution to kind of get the application going. There were some exceptions for that, lot size, as well as some setbacks. But again, the request is in line with our comprehensive plan. And I would also like to add, because I have an opportunity, that it goes to further the housing diversity that we're going to have in our community. That's a very important aspect that I try to get across at all times. And so doing it more in an incremental way where we're getting just units here and there is going to be far better for the community than putting up just large, apartment complexes on the side of town. So this serves a lot of good purpose for the community. So with that, the commission did vote 3-0 to approve the PUD as was submitted. So with that, if you have any questions.
Any questions, Dan? All right, I'll entertain a motion then to
Motion.
adopt that ordinance and the recommendation.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Any other discussion? Submit your votes.
I'll vote straight.
See the votes. Unanimous from those present in the room.
Well, they're out there, so just.
Yeah, well, they're not here to vote. But it's still unanimous and it carries for that request to rezone that property. Item number 5, discussion and possible action to approve the revision made to resolution number 2022-30, authorizing the submission of a coronavirus response and relief supplemental appropriations act grant application. Leroy, you taking that?
I will, in just a nutshell, ODOT classifies roads. We got the most recent ODOT map, and that's what we used to select the roads on the first round of the application. AGCOG has not accepted the most recent map from ODOT, so some of the roads that we put in for were not classified by AGCOG yet because they're a map behind. So what we've done is picked other roads that meets AGCOG's categories because they're the ones giving out the grant. Same amount of money, we just shifted the roads to make sure that they were roads eligible under AGCOG's guidelines.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion or questions of Leroy? Submit your votes.
I'll vote straight.
See the votes. Unanimous approval. Then to approve those revisions to resolution 2022-30. Item number 6, discussion possible action on city manager recruitment and selection process.
We've received 9 applications at this point, and it really hasn't hit the major journals for city managers, so we'll probably get more. But at this point, I thought that you would want to have some discussion on how you want to narrow down or select the candidates for interviews. Do you want to see every application? Do you want us to call them? Just what process do you want to use as next steps? And then, of course, at some point, we'll have to talk about the interview process once we narrow down the ones we're going to bring in the interview, whether we do a community tour, like a lot of communities do, to familiarize them with the community. They meet with department heads, and that way department heads get a chance to know the candidates and give you their feedback on them. The interview team that will actually do the interview, and then do we have a panel of questions so that we'll at least ask each candidate a panel of questions that each one of them, now there may be supplemental questions, but they will all have a panel
Same question.
of questions that are the same they answer, so there can be some apple-to-apple comparison.
Well, I think we ought to have, I think it would be good to have a preliminary screening process set up. I would think that, just a suggestion, that maybe there would be a representative from each ward on that preliminary screen, and possibly the sitting city manager, and they would then sift out, and the applicants that rise to the next level then would be the entire council.
Another thought, in my opinion, this doesn't close till what, the 2nd of December?
That's when, it's open until it's filled, but we said if they wanted to get full consideration to get it in by December 2nd.
Another way to do it, we could wait till December, so we know if we're trying to sort out 10 or 110 before we decide how to call them. I mean, it's whatever you guys want to do, but
I personally would like to see the at the resumes, personally.
I would too.
Well, we got two that representing two different wards then, that have already volunteered, if you
And
wanted.
then all you gotta do is step up and see
Well, I
them
think
too.
Don has a
Good.
point. Like, there's
So
no
you got
sense
3
of-
people here that'll see
If everyone knows
them.
it's open until December 2nd, then there's no reason to respond to anybody.
No, not
Exactly.
exactly. No response
I
whatsoever.
just wanna see the. I
But
wanna
just to see the
resume.
resumes as they come in so that we can have a tickler on them as well. And you, obviously. And then we can meet on them, once the date closes.
What we might do is to get a head start when it gets close to that date, we might screen the ones that we already have. And then on December 2nd,
Yep.
screen the balance of them.
And maybe have a meeting a week or
I
so
would
before.
add the caveat, if any city councilman wants to see them all, even though we have a screening committee, all they gotta do is come to the office and we can make arrangements for them to see all the applications if they wanna go through. So nobody would be denied seeing them if they wanted to. But the formal process, there will be 3 councilmen, myself, that will narrow the panel down to bring forward to the full body for consideration.
Yep.
If I understand what you said.
That's what I was.
And that's what we've done in the past, pretty much.
If somebody else wants to see them,
Yeah, they're
and they
more than
find
welcome.
somebody they think we did unjustly, they can always bring it forward.
Sure.
And throw it back on the pile. I mean,
And as far as meeting with staff, that's what's always happened in the past.
Yes, sir.
And as far as set amount of questions, that's what's always happened in the past. We might even be able to utilize the same questions. I don't remember what they were.
Well,
Now, they were awful easy.
Maybe, well, we can tell.
yeah, they wasn't hard enough.
Maybe we can strengthen them up a little bit.
He probably remembers every single one of them. So what I'm hearing, and we hope that we have a large number of applicants, obviously.
Yeah.
But what I'm hearing is that we're all kind of leaning towards a screening group that would represent each of the wards.
So when we get
yourself,
close
and
to
then-
the end of November, we may do a preliminary review of the
Yeah,
ones
quick.
we have, and then after December 2nd, our pool would be smaller and we'll screen the balance. And it wouldn't take us long doing them in 2 groups. Then we'll bring those forward for an executive session to the city council. We'll finalize the details at that time, but anybody on the city council is welcome to look at them at any time. We'll sure make them available to you. Also, remember one thing, we have told them in the application that we would not reach out to their communities
Exactly.
until we had a sincere interest in them. So when you see an application, oh, I know Billy Bob up in that town, I'm gonna call him and ask him about this
Yeah, no.
individual. That's not the way to do it.
No.
Right, that's good. For those in the room, you may not know, our present city manager, Leroy, has submitted his retirement in April, so we're in the process of.
He gets to
recruiting.
travel.
Okay, number 7, city
No more
manager
of these.
report. City manager.
I do not
report.
have any additional.
Item number 8 is comments by the council. Councilman Bothroyd.
As Leroy mentioned, I think tonight was the system working, because again, I mean, we just seriously spent a tremendous amount of time and effort, and we're paid $1 a year to do it. You know, let's just remember that.
Whether we need it or not.
Seriously, and I have a day job and spend a lot of daytime in it, and I know these guys have too. But you know, it worked for the benefit of y'all, I hope, at the end of the day. It's out of our hands at this point, though, and just got to make that a real, it is. So, that's all I've got.
Councilman Long.
I hope everybody had a happy Halloween, and now it's on time to start thinking about that turkey time.
Yeah.
I don't have any comments.
Councilman Williams.
Everything's good. I appreciate the work that Dan put in and answered some of my many questions concerning this issue. And I appreciate the effort that Don put in it. I didn't talk to anybody else. He and I conferred about it quite a bit. But anyway, I think the process went the way they wanted it, so everything is good.
Councilman Chandler.
There you go.
You know, I presented that, I was just the messenger and the compiler of the stuff. I was just trying, Some of you may believe that I have that company's underwear on. I can't even tell you what their name is right now. But I promise, I did, what I was trying to do is come up with something that would let them use their land, yet protect everybody as much as possible. And, you know, I heard a lot of promises from over there with degrees and group lawsuits and all this kind of stuff. So I just hope you guys back up what you promised. I did what I'm supposed to do.
Councilman Taylor.
Thank you, staff. I don't know what else can be said. I appreciate what y'all did tonight, so I know it's tough for all of us that sit up here and listen and have to decide what we're gonna do. So thank you, Don. I appreciate your work on it as well.
Vice Mayor Case.
I want to commend John specifically. I think he did a great job. I really do. He put in a lot of effort. I didn't put any at all. I didn't do anything. You did it. You and Brian.
Well,
So I appreciate what you guys did, and I want to make sure you get credit for that. So thank you for what you did.
I'm not so sure I want the credit.
Thanks.
Well, that's what we're
You
talking
know, one of
about.
them ladies out there, she was giving me the evil eye pretty tough.
Well,
You know, it's
Oh,
no.
I bet you wouldn't now, though.
what happened on this, just so that everybody knows, is Don took a lead. He got with Tracy, he got with me, he got with others, and we discussed
We
amongst
researched the
us and
fire
came
of
up with a plan. That's how that all happened.
Okay, again, congratulations to the chamber and city businesses for their trick or treat during the streets yesterday. Saw pictures of it, looked like it had a huge turnout for that. And I'd like to just mention, for the audience viewing, remember Veterans Day coming up on the 11th. There's 2 programs that are specifically focused at veterans. One the night before at 5:30 at the Carnegie Library steps. They're going to be lighting luminarios, and it looks to be like a pretty neat celebration and recognition. And then, of course, on the 11th, on November 11th, on Friday at Honor Park, just down the street here, at about 10:45, there will be the traditional recognition of veterans that we have, involvement with Guthrie Public Schools, the band, the choir, the ROTC, and that, again, is 10:45 at Honor Park on the 11th, and should be a really great recognition and remembrance of veterans, living and dead. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we're adjourned. Thank you.
No, that's it. Next time.